So I actually had good friend of the channel, Tori, bring this to my attention. Shout out to my good friend Tori. So I'm not familiar with this person, Dean Withers. I hope that I'm pronouncing that correctly. If I pronounce that incorrectly, you guys can correct me in the chat, because we all know I'm a big dum-dum that pronounces names wrong. But in any case, apparently this is like a content creator who's really popular on TikTok. He's like a progressive content creator, and he's kind of made a name for himself on TikTok. If we go ahead and go over to his TikTok, we can see this guy has almost a million followers on TikTok, and he's pulling some insane viewership. We got 6 million here, almost 6 million, 7.5 million, almost a million here. So like they pull some insane viewership, just to say the least, on their TikTok. And let's go ahead and let's play one of these just to give an example of kind of what they do in terms of content.
Murder is the intentional taking of life, different than killing or sudden death. So murder would be the intent taking another life.
I think that's a very poor way to define murder, because if someone were to like break into my home and point a gun at the heads of me and everybody I love, and I intentionally kill them to prevent them from killing my family, I don't think I murdered them, right? So I would define murder as the
I was one of those woke college students that debated.
Okay, so I don't really know why it just jumped to another clip there, but you get the point. We're trying to take a brief look at what kind of content they do and how they kind of made a name for themselves on TikTok. But it looks like the cancel culture mob has come for Dean here in a way that, you know, we've seen it time and time before. You know, somebody will post something of like, hey, you know, you're all woke and stuff now, but take a look at this horrible thing you said back in the day that, you know, completely invalidates, you know, everything they've done up to that point. In the eyes of like these like woke skull type lefties, like Twitter lefties and stuff like that, it's just like, once you've been exposed for doing something horrible in your past, no matter how far back it is, instantly everything you've ever done in a positive light has become invalidated. So we have Bryce Hall here. Not very woke of you, Dean. Shaking my head. So let's see what we have here. We have some leaking of some Instagram DMs, and this is the one in question here that we have an issue with, or rather, some people have an issue with. Hella goated my end word, sweating emoji. So he said the N-word in the past. So this was back in 2019. If I remember correctly, he was like 14 or 15 at the time this was said. So this is something like we're talking about. You're really digging to the bottom of the barrel to try and find some reason to be mad at this guy. And here's the thing, right? Using the N-word, yeah, you know, you probably shouldn't be doing that. But having said it, the dude was like a young teenager, okay? When I look back at some of the shit that I used to say as a teenager, like, oh boy, I thank God I did not have access to the internet back then, because if I had access to the internet back then, oh man, there would be so much material for me to get canceled for. By the way, who is this person that's blocked right here? Oh my God, it's Nick Fuentes. Wow, that racist piece of shit. Disappointed to see this from him. Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Nick Fuentes gives a damn about the fact that this guy, when he was a teenager, used the N-word. So, for some reason, I get this inkling that he doesn't really give a shit about this. But in any case, you know, this started making the rounds, and understandably, a lot of people got upset about it. They decided to make the following statement in their Discord server in response to this sort of making the rounds. So they said, at everyone, a screenshot of me saying the N-word when I was 14 is making the rounds on X and TikTok. First and foremost, I thought I'd give the context to those that haven't seen it already. Someone DM'd me a Fortnite edit and I responded, hella goated my N-word. The screenshot dates the message at April of 2019. I take accountability for my use of the word and very obviously recognize it was being wrong. It is being wrong, rather. I would personally like to apologize specifically to all the members of the Black community for ever using that term. They also elaborated further on this situation on Twitter. Screenshot of me saying the F slur. Oh, so there's more. Okay, I wasn't able to find that one, but apparently there's a screenshot out there of them saying the F slur as well. Okay. Screenshots of me saying the F slur in 2022 and the N-word in 2019 have been doing the rounds here on X. First, I would like to confirm that both of these screenshots are 110% real. So they're just owning it. They're just like, yeah, I said these things back in the day. These are things that, yeah, they're legitimate. I'm not going to try and weasel my way out of it or try and pretend like, oh, this is like photoshopped or something like that. No, I'm just going to be real with you guys. It's real. I made a pretty long post about my past using slurs on my Discord some time ago. I want to share a part of that with you all now. So he's like copy and pasting something that he's already said in regards to this. I'm putting this announcement out not only to hold myself accountable, but hoping you guys will hold me accountable as well. Collectively, society should hold all accountable who hold harmful ideologies or use such language, regardless of follower count, political affiliation, or perceived power. The use of slurs is deplorable, harmful, and disgusting, and I am ashamed of my past actions. As I speak about, on my live streams often, the reason I host my debates is because I was once in a position where I lacked critical education surrounding the topics that I now adamantly preach about. And I now hope to share that same level of education that brought me to the truth with as many people as I can. I am ashamed of the boy I used to be, and this is something that will continue to haunt me. However, I will continue to move forward, educating those who stand in the shoes I used to stand in, advocating for the same change that I underwent on a societal level. I am dead set in my ways, and I love what I do now because I personally know what education can do to make any human on this planet better for those around them and better for society as a whole. I will continue to dedicate my platform to educating those who stand today where I stood years ago. I would like to personally apologize to all members of the BIPOC and LGBTQ plus communities. Thank you to all of those who are holding me accountable in good faith today. I will never forget my motivation for doing what I do now, and neither should you. If you look at the replies, a lot of these people are honestly like just like chuds pretending to give a shit when in reality they don't really give a shit at all. They're just kind of like, virtue signaling or whatever about something that, like, okay, some of these people, like we saw Nick Fuentes earlier. Do you really think that Nick Fuentes gives a shit about the use of the N-word? No, he doesn't give a shit about it. But because, apparently this guy had a debate with him in the past and he made Nick Fuentes look pretty bad, which in fairness, it's not that hard to make Nick Fuentes look bad. But hey, I hear he performed pretty well. I'm not trying to downplay his performance. But in any case, this is someone that debated Nick Fuentes and made Nick Fuentes look like a fool. So, of course, Nick Fuentes is going to throw some jabs in there, because of these revelations that are happening. But the main reason I wanted to talk about this is not so much those people pretending to care when they don't actually care. The thing I really wanted to talk about, and this is very similar to a conversation. This is what makes this interesting that, Euphoria Tori was somebody who brought this to my attention. You guys may remember quite some time ago, I did some coverage on Euphoria Tori in the past where like she was getting canceled for like drinking Starbucks coffee. Okay, there was this, obviously, there's a lot of people out there, myself including, who want to see the rights of the Palestinian people, be honored or, not sure what words to use at the moment, but you know what I'm saying, right? I'm pro-Palestine, okay? And so there are some people who are like looking at, different businesses that do business in Israel or they support Israel in one way or another. And they're like trying to boycott those businesses. Somehow people got this like weird thought in their head that Starbucks was one of those companies. And so they started like harassing people on Twitter just for drinking Starbucks. And if you actually take like 2 seconds to do a little Google search, you can see very quickly that there's no proof that Starbucks is supporting Israel in any way, shape, or form. But a lot of these people, that are Twitter leftists, they're very performative and they're just looking for any reason to be outraged with people. And so you'll see a lot of these like harassment campaigns. We saw it obviously with the Starbucks thing that I just referenced. We saw this with Hogwarts Legacy where, hey, if you wanted to boycott Hogwarts Legacy because of, J.K. Rowling and her turf views on trans women and stuff like that, totally fine. I think that's cool. If you want to do that boycott, you go right ahead. But I take serious issue with like people going as far as to harass anybody who doesn't participate in the boycott. I think it's really counterproductive. But this is a very similar situation to that where we see a lot of this in the online left, specifically this purity testing of people, okay? You'll get somebody who is making a name for themselves, in the online left in some way, shape, or form. And then you have these people who are like radical leftists or woke scold types or whatever. They start digging into their past to find anything that they can bitch about. And it doesn't matter if it's something they said a year ago. Doesn't matter if it's something they did 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. It doesn't matter. As soon as they find something, instantly they're like, well, what do you have to say about this? How are we going to cancel you for this? Looks like you're not as woke as you claim to be. And it's just like, what the fuck? Like, okay, how do you think that kind of behavior is at all productive to kind of explaining to people and showing people why the positions we hold on the left are the right positions to have? I can speak personally from my experience as somebody who only within the past year and a half or so joined sort of online leftist spaces. I'm someone who I've always kind of held these views, but I never talked about it and I never opened up about it for a couple of reasons. One, most YouTube content creators will tell you, don't talk about politics because you're going to alienate like half of your audience when you do so. And it's true. We could all see that once I became very open with my political views, a lot of my audience left because they're like, oh, Tipster's gone woke now and fuck that noise, right? But the other thing is that a lot of times if you are a bit of a leftist, maybe you're a closeted leftist, I'll just put it that way, and you see the online left and you see the way they treat other people who come out as being left-wing, right? And you see the purity testing and stuff like that going on, it makes you wonder, like, why do I want to engage with these people? Why do I want to interact with these people? Why do I want to join these communities? Because the moment I join these communities and I start to, mingle with these people and maybe develop like a little bit of a community in these spaces, maybe get a bit of a following in these spaces, all of a sudden, I'm going to get purity tested too. So I can speak from personal experience. One of the things that held me back for the longest time in terms of joining these types of communities is like, well, I have a past. I'm not a perfect person. I've made my fair share of mistakes in the past. I've said some dumb shit in the past. Why do I want to join these spaces just so I can get purity tested by these people and not be accepted by them? It just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me at the time. Now, granted, I did eventually join these spaces and I started to realize that not everybody is a woke scold piece of shit like that who's looking to purity test everybody on the planet, because there are some people in the online left who realize that, yeah, we're human. We're not perfect. We've all said things that we regret. We've all done things we regret. We've all held opinions that we no longer agree with. But my point is, this is extremely counterproductive, okay? If you're looking at people who are, say, for example, right-wing right now, who obviously you very much disagree with, and in some cases, their opinions are extremely problematic, how do you ever expect to sway those people's opinions if they look at our communities and they say, well, look at them. Why would we ever want to be one of them? Why would we ever want to even consider giving them the time of day? They eat each other alive. The moment they find anything that they can use against somebody in their own community, they eat them alive, they cancel them, they shun them, and they blackball them in the community. Why would you ever want to be a part of the online left or online leftist spaces for fear of being treated that same way? So I kind of wanted to talk about this topic and other topics like it, just to kind of say that this is counterproductive. Like, if you think that you're going to accomplish something positive in these spaces by purity testing everybody who ever sets foot in these communities, you're not helping push these causes at all. You're doing the complete opposite. You know how many people have been open to hearing out, people in the online left and like, oh, I see your point. And, they start getting a little bit interested in these types of positions. And because they get treated like dog shit because of people who behave this way, then they get pushed to the right, And to be fair, I think it's kind of spineless if it takes a little bit of bullying to completely shift your political opinions. But there are some people that's happened to. So that's what I mean when I say that it's very counterproductive to engage in this purity testing behavior. I think that people who do this stuff need to stop. There's nothing wrong with holding someone accountable for their actions in the here and the now, okay? If somebody you follow who is, a creator in the online left, right, and they do something bad now and you want to be critical of them and say, hey, you shouldn't have done that or you shouldn't have said that, that's fine. You're criticizing the here and the now. But there is no value in digging into people's past, ages and ages and ages ago, something that's reflective of them as a person who they were, but they aren't anymore, what is the value in holding people accountable for things they've said or done in their past when that's not reflective of who they are now? So I just kind of wanted to get that on off my chest, because it's something we still see so much in these spaces, and it doesn't do anything valuable for anyone. Guys, if you're watching this, the purity testing needs to stop. Seriously.